सर्वदिनं प्रणमामि च माधवदेवपदं वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। भुजे सव्यवेणुं शिरसि शिखिपिच्छं कटितटे दुकूलं नेत्रान्ते सहचरकटाक्षं विदधते सदा श्रीमद्वृन्दावनवसति लीलापरिचयो जगन्नाथस्वामी नयनपथगामी भवतु मे। वन्दे नन्दव्रजस्त्रीणां पादरेणुम् अभीक्ष्णशः यासां हरिकथोद्गीतं पुनाति भुवनत्रयं। भक्त्या विहीन अपराधलक्षैक्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयी त्वां शरणं प्रपन्नवृन्दे नुमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। भूमस्वखलितपादानां भूमिरेव यवलम्बनं त्वय्यजातयपराधानां त्वमैव शरणं प्रभु। वागीशा यस्य वदने लक्ष्मीर्यस्या च वक्ष्यसि यस्यास्ति हृदये संवित्तं नृसिंहमहं भजे। श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यप्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्टार्ट करने के बाद भी सेट नहीं कर सकते हैं? उसके बाद भी नहीं? स्टार्ट करने के बाद शायद उसमें सेटिंग्स होगा, देखो उसके ऊपर क्लिक करके। नहीं, the conversation between Yadu and yesterday that from the air what he has learned. Air is of two types. One is the life air and the other is the surrounding air, the air which is outside. So the life air is not dependent on any of the sense gratificatory things. Food or not, he is not dependent. Sorry, whether our senses are making proper enjoyment or not. The life air is there till body, means the food is supplied to it. So in a similar way, a rishi or a muni, he accepts only those places where the minimum things are required just to keep the body fit, but he does not accept or he does not go to those places where his mind is deviated from Hari Bhajan or the mind gets distracted or disturbed. He will not accept that. From life air he has learned this lesson. And from the air that is outside, from the external wind, what he learned is that just like everything, he carries the aroma, sweet aroma, or bad smell, foul smell, or he carries the moisture, or he carries dry climate, whatever. The wind itself remains unaffected by it. In a similar way, a yogi also is totally unaffected, means he does not get attached to anything. Just like a wind, he just carries but he does not become wet by water, or he did not become dry, or he leaves that character, that particular characteristic. Wind carries its own characteristic, but whatever is accompanied with it, he will just carry it and then he will leave it. He will not stay attached to it. In a similar way, a learned person or a yogi, he will be completely detached from whatever happiness or distresses that are coming in this world. As we move along in this material world, or as we progress, then the happiness, distress, they come on due course of time. He will not be attached to either happiness, or he will not be, he will not be overly, unattached, or overly, he remains unattached. Both the cases. And we heard another verse also, right? So just like वायु जे रूप गंध द्वारा लिप्त होइना आत्मतत्वज्ञान योगी पुरुषो से रूप पार्थिव देह समूहे प्रवेश एवं तदीय बाल्यादि धर्म सकल ग्रहण कोरियाऊ ताहते आसक्त होना. In a similar way, again he is telling that a person who is intelligent or a person who is knowledgeable, just like the wind remains unattached, in a similar way, while living in this material world, he takes birth, he is growing, he is performing activities like a child or all these things. During the course of all these things, he will use this body only as a vehicle to attain Supreme Lord, but he does not attach himself to this body. So this is what we heard Avadhuta Brahmana telling to Yadu, wind. Now we will continue to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 7th chapter, verse 42. Antarhritascha sthira jangameshu brahmatma bhavena samanvayena vyapya avyavachedam asangamatmana munir नभस्त्वं विततस्य भावयेत. मुनि पुरुष देह मध्ये अवस्थित होइलेउ स्वकीय ब्रह्म स्वरूपत्व भावना निबंधन आकाशेर न्याय स्थावर जंगम सर्व पदार्थे अधिष्ठात्र रूपे अनुगमन हेतु सर्वगत आत्मार अपरिच्छन्नत्व एवं असंग भाव चिंता करिबेन. So he has learnt from earth, wind, sky, water, 5 material elements. Material elements, he learnt lessons. We heard about earth and wind. Now he is talking about the sky. Sky or ether. Sky means, we refer to that as a sky, but actually sky means space. Ether, that is called sky. So here also in this room there is sky. Wherever there is empty space, that is called sky. We usually refer sky means that. In our body also there is sky. Sky means free space, empty space. If there is no empty space in the body, then you cannot move these. You need ether to be present inside the body. You need some free space. The heart is pumping. So when it is pumping, it is going out. So if there is no place, how can it pump? It cannot, right? If it is tightly packed like a solid, then it cannot pump. The nerves are carrying the blood in the veins and the arteries. So even to pump the blood, there needs to be some void space. Otherwise, where will it carry to which place if everything is packed? So ether is required in the body. Everywhere ether is there, inside the body, is outside the body. In this room also there is ether. All the surrounding place where there is nothing, is empty or void, is called ether. Ether carries sound. It is the carrier of the sound. So, now what lesson he has learned from the sky? He is telling that sky is present everywhere. He is present inside the body. He is present outside the body. But if you say that when the sky is in the body, it is limited, then it is the sky. You say that it is limited because when it is inside the body, it is limited. He says, no, sky remains unlimited. In a similar way, Atma, soul that is, it cannot expand, or the consciousness is also limited. He says, no. What lesson he has learned from the sky? That even present inside the body and outside the body, it may apparently seem that the sky is limited and the sky is in contact with the body, but actually it is not in contact with the body, nor is it limited. In a similar way, yogis see, just like the sky, they understand that the Atma, even though it is present inside the body, Atma is present everywhere, outside also. Atma is present everywhere, isn't it? The Supreme Lord is called Vishwatma. He is the super soul, he is the soul of everything. If the Lord is not present as Vishwatma, as the soul of this particular universe, then there cannot be any movement happening. There cannot be any animation. The living entities or the objects in this world, they become animated only because of the presence of the super soul in it. Super soul means living force. Because of the existence of the living force, everything becomes animate. Otherwise, everything is a dead matter, dull matter. So, here, मुनि पुरुष देह मध्ये अवस्थित होइलेऊ स्वकीय ब्रह्म स्वरूपत्व भावना आकाशेर न्याय. So, his true identity, what is the true identity? The true identity is Brahma Swarupatva, that I belong to that Brahman. Brahman means not Brahma. Brahma is the creator. Brahman is the absolute principle. I belong to that absolute principle. Even though I am inside the body, I am not restricted to this body. Atma is not restricted to the body. It seems inside, but actually the consciousness pervades everywhere. So, he says that the Munis, they see that the actual nature of the self is that I belong to the absolute principle. Akashe Nyay Sthavar Jangam Sarva is present in all objects, everywhere, even in a solid, even inside this. There is, sky, isn't it? Even in the solid there is sky. We may say that it's tightly packed, but still there are voids, there is space.
It seems like Mayavad.
What?
आकाश घट आकाश मायावत जैसा लगता है थोड़ा सा.
कौन सा?
ये जो उदाहरण.
मायावत जैसा क्यों लगेगा? Sky is there everywhere.
आत्मा के बारे में बताए ना, आत्मा सब जगह व्याप्त है.
हाँ, आत्मा is there everywhere.
तो पर ऐसे पता जाता है कि हमारे शरीर में क्या चल रहा है, हमको पता चलता है. आपके शरीर में क्या चल, मतलब कॉन्शियसनेस तो लिमिट ही है, बॉडी की तरफ, बॉडी तक ही लिमिट हुआ कॉन्शियसनेस.
But consciousness is not limited, na? The conscious principle cannot be limited. The conscious principle itself cannot be limited. Just like, you are present here, you have the desire, you have thinking, willing and doing, right? You can feel, you can think, you can do. So, because there is consciousness present inside you, you can think of being elsewhere. Just by that, you can be present at that place, and you can feel through your imagination or through your thing, you can even feel that. The consciousness is inside us, but it is not only limited to that little space, isn't it? that the conscious principle is very, very minute, but it is making us feel everywhere inside the body. It seems to be a limited principle all over. There is no, if you see the Atma's, as you heard, the Atma's size is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. It is only mentioned for the sake of it. It's not that it is the actual dimension. It means that it is the size of it is very insignificant. But if you talk in those terms, there is no existence. But actually, it is all pervading all through the body. It is not that I can know what is happening in others' body. That super soul can know. Super soul will know what is happening in all the individual bodies. But I have knowledge only about my body. So even though it is minute, still it is pervading all through. You understand? It's not that I can know what others are feeling. My consciousness is spread only through this body. But as Vishwatma, as the super soul, he is present everywhere. He knows everything. I cannot become that. But the yogis, they can understand that I belong to that Atma Tattva. I belong to that Brahma Tattva. I actually don't belong to this body. सर्व पदार्थे अधिष्ठात्री रूपे सर्वगत आत्मार अपरिच्छन्नत्व एवं असंग भाव चिंता करिबेन. Asanga means he is also not attached to it. Atma is there. Now Atma principle, this Atma which is not the principle. The requirement of Atma is totally different. Like this body is made of earth, water, fire, air and ether. This body requires these things. But if the body is just supplied with these things, Atma is not getting its own food. Atma's food is Paramatma. Okay. Maybe we are not performing bhajan, which means that our covering or we become more and more dormant. Our nature of becoming more and more towards dullness is increasing. But Atma itself, because of the layers of the covering that is increasing, it appears that it is becoming dull, but matter. But actually Atma will at one point of time, when the true food for it comes, means the other day we were listening to this water state, it will become like normal water. In a similar way, he is not in association with the body. The principle of Atma is completely different. We have from the sky. It is, even though it seems limited, it seems it is unlimited and it is not in contact with the body. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in the commentary, आकाश के देखिया आकाशे न्याय परमात्मा अंतरे ओ बाहरे थाकियाओ आसक्त नहेन. So the Paramatma, the super soul, just like sky that is outside and inside, that Paramatma is there everywhere, inside and outside. Asakta nahen, but he is not under the cover of it, or he is not attached to it. Ihai akash hoite shikha koriben. This is what you have to learn from the sky. दुईटी श्लोक द्वारा बोलते छेन परमात्मा देहेर भीतरे थाकियाऊ बाहिरे सर्वव्यापी. जोगी व्यक्ति विशेष ज्ञान द्वारा परमात्मार सर्वव्यापकत्व आकाशेर सादृश्ये भावना करिबेन. स्थावर जंगम सकल प्राणीते ब्रह्मस्वरूपे व्याप्त रहियाछेन ताहाते व्यवधान नाय. So this verse and the following verse also about this Akash, this sky, is being spoken. Just like Paramatma, Paramatma is existing in all the living entities. Bahire sarvavyap, spread everywhere. योगी व्यक्ति विशेष ज्ञान द्वारा बाय देयर ओन स्पेशल नॉलेज परमात्मार सर्वव्यापकत्व आकाशेर सादृश्य भावना just like the sky where Paramatma is everywhere. स्थावर जंगम सकल प्राणी ब्रह्म स्वरूपे व्याप्त ताहाते limitation that he cannot stay in matter or he cannot stay non-moving sky. He can stay everywhere. In a similar way, Atma not such restrictions. Paramatma also does not have such restrictions. He can enter anywhere and everywhere, just like the sky. आकाश जेमन सर्वगत है थाकियाऊ आकाश घट आदि परिच्छिन्न नहीं परम. So he is telling that he is giving the example of the earthen pot. Just like pot is there, inside the pot there is sky, but the pot is not limiting the sky. Inside the pot there is sky, but the pot itself is not limiting the sky. In a similar way, if you consider this body to be like a pot and Paramatma is existing inside this pot, this body, just like sky is not just limited by the pot, in a similar way Paramatma is also not limited by this body. Do you understand?
Can go anytime, can go inside and not.
No, it is not that going inside outside, he is there everywhere. But you see, if you take a pot space is limited. You cannot say that Paramatma's activity is only limited to that, or the sky's activity is limited only to this particular size of the pot. The Akash is also outside, and it is outside also. In a similar way, Paramatma, he is present everywhere, inside and outside. So this body, inside the body is Paramatma, but to this body, he is also everywhere. Clear? ओ अनात्म धर्मे वैकल्य लक्षण सर्वदा अवस्थित आत्मविद कखनऊ अनात्मा शरीर धर्मे आत्माधिकारेर पक्षपाती नहेन जड़ेर विषय ग्रहण विचारेर व्यापकता अथवा परिच्छिन्न होइबार विचार आत्मार नाय. So just like matter, as soon as you say matter, let's say phone, immediately what are the dimensions of the phone? What is the size of the phone? What is the weight of the phone? Isn't it? Or any person, let's say XYZ, Madhavi, then immediately what is her height? What is her weight? What is her breadth? So immediately shape comes into our picture in terms of dimensions. Any matter. But Atma itself is not limited to any of these dimensions. Like any material, please bring me a jug. Then you will ask what size jug you want. Do you want? Immediately ask you, because matter needs to be specified. How many? What size? So it needs specification. But Atma, he is saying that Atma cannot be limited like that. Like Sri Krishna is there. All of you heard this story, that when Yashoda was binding Sri Krishna, she was trying to bind Sri Krishna. Krishna was only a small little boy. What is the size of his waist? Maybe this much. But she couldn't bind the ropes, because within this limited shape, he is unlimited, because he is Paramatma, he is supreme. So it appears that he is limited to particular dimensions, but actually he is beyond any of these dimensions. So Atma cannot be calculated in terms of its dimensions, weight, height, breadth, etc., where we speak for the matter. That's why in the Shastras it is said that 1/10,000 the hair is Atma, giving some dimension to it, but actually what do you call, to give an indication. It's not that it's not specifying that this size. It says that test thing in order to indicate that, but any size in itself. For example, just like a room is there, let's say very big room. Inside the big room, even if there is a small light in the corner of it, let's bulb, it is there. Now that will illuminate the entire room, isn't it? If you talk about the dimension of that particular bulb in comparison to this room, if you want to talk about the volume of it in comparison to the big room, it is just staying at the one corner of the room, it illuminates. In a similar way, Atma, he is present in the body, and that Atma is pervading all through the body. That Atma is pervading all through the body. Like if you pinch at the bottom of your toe or at the top of the hair or anywhere in the body, immediately you will come to know. An ant, you will immediately that ant is crawling. Consciousness. But what is the size of the consciousness? That signify a material object by its size and shape cannot be classified in that category, not by size or the shape. जे रूप जीव भेदाभेद प्रकाश होवाय व्यवच्छेद ओ व्याप्तिर संग लाभे आकाशेर धर्म होइते विच्युत हन ना, से रूप अचिंत्य भेदाभेद विचार ग्रहण करिले जीवेर अनादि भगवद वैमुख्य भगवद वस्तुत लक्षित হয়। अन्वय ও व्यतिरेक भावे आत्मस्वरूप ज्ञान लाभ करिले आकाशेर विचार केवल जड़ धर्मेर व्यतीत आकाशेर निज धर्म आत्मधर्मे अवस्थित जाना जाए। संग विषयेर विवेचनाय अन्वय ও व्यतिरेक विचार स्वरूप धर्मेर उपलब्धिर कारण है। So Prabhupada is also repeating the same thing, that the Atma Swarup, the true Atma, is just like the sky. Sky is present inside, outside, everywhere. The association with the pot. It will come in association with the pot. It will affect the pot. But sky? No, he will not. He is there, but he will not. In a similar way, Atma also, he will not the body at all. He remains an independent principle always.
He is like in cage. Atma is in cage.
Atma is inside the body. Yes, this is you can say the body is a prison house. So Atma is hurled down into this material world because of our aversion, and therefore we have to accept some kind of a body, whether it is an animal body, human body, or insect body, whatever it is, we have to accept one kind. So, but still it is not associated with it. It remains a different principle altogether. Tejo avannam ayer bhavai meghadyir vayu neritai na sprishyate nabhastadvat kalasprishtair gunai पुमान। वायु प्रेरित मेघादि भाव समूह द्वारा आकाश जे रूप लिप्त है ना, पुरुषौ से रूप काल विचार तेजोमय देहादि पदार्थ द्वारा लिप्त होना. So it is an extension of the also means in the sky there are, so when there are clouds, what does that wind do? That carries all the clouds, or they bury. But the sky itself is not covered by the wind, isn't it? The sky, the wind carries the sky is never covered by it. Sky means what? Everything. Whatever we see, everything is sky. It is never covered by wind. The earth, water, fire, air and ether. Ether is the most subtlest thing. Okay. The subtlest thing can never be covered by the gross thing. You have to very clearly understand earth, water, fire, air and ether. One after another is the most grossest thing. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can hold it. Then comes water. It becomes, you can also hold water, but it's, and even more finer or subtle is your fire. Anyone can hold fire? Means even if you have, red tolerate fire, but you cannot catch it, isn't it? You cannot hold it because it becomes finer. Finer than that is wind. Anyone can hold wind? Finer than wind is ether, sky. Okay, sky is the most finest thing. The finer element can never be covered by the gross element. Understand this principle very clearly, then it becomes very clear.
Sound is more final than ether?
The sound is carried by ether. Sound is carried by ether. More subtler than ether is buddhi, and even finer is intelligence. Finer than ego. Even finer is Atma. Element. Atma can never be covered by any of the gross things. The finer you go, more difficult, or the solid, let's say earth, he can be covered with water, he can be covered with wind, or he can be carried with the wind, or he can be, fire. If you see, then he can burn, because earth is the grossest thing. But the finer you go, like the fire or sky, the finer you go, it's impossible for gross elements to cover the finer elements. So that is why in the sky, when there is wind, you are understanding? You are understanding, no? You have to understand the principle, then everything becomes clear. If principle is not understood, then it is difficult to understand. The principle is the subtle elements can cover the gross element, but a gross element cannot cover the subtle element. Okay. So the wind is carrying the clouds in the sky, but the sky itself remains untouched by the wind, or unattached by the wind, uncovered by the wind. In a similar way, kalarachito kshiti jal lipto honna. Purusho covered by active elements, earth, water, fire, etc. You understand? Earth, water, fire, air, ether are time. You understand? These two are two different natures. earth, water, fire, they are all time dependent. And Atma is eternal. Eternal means what? Independent of time. Even everything gets lost, Atma is not lost. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So even if sharir is also, I mean the body, which is a composition of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and ego, if it is destroyed also, na hanyate, that which remains indestructible is Atma. So from sky what he has learned, just like the clouds are dispersed by the wind, but the sky itself remains uncovered or untouched by the wind. In a similar way, Atma remains uncovered or untouched by elements which take birth and die over a period of time. The five material elements, they annihilate, but Atma is eternal.
But I don't understand what he's saying. Like, final, like earth, you can touch it and other things do this. Fire, for example, you can put earth in fire, then it will also gone.
Yes.
Like it's final, but earth can cover this also. These are not problems.
No, the point, or you can put water to extinguish. No, just like in earth. Let me explain the other way. In earth, there is also fire. The finer elements, all the finer elements inside earth. Water is inside earth. And what else? Sky. Sky or ether, same thing. Water, fire, air. So all these four elements are inside the grossest thing. But if the finer is water. Like air, ether and fire. You have and ether. Inside air you have ether. But ether is the finest element, there are no gross elements inside it. Okay. More easier to understand. The finer you go, the more, less gross elements you will have a feel of it. And in the grossest element you have everything. In earth you have everything, water, fire, air and ether. All the things are there. Okay. Now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in the commentary, तुमको तो कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा होगा, थोड़ा हो रहा है. Like earth, water, fire, etc. All these things, they come into existence by the time. But still, Jivatma Sparsha Korena. That body which is made of these material elements, they never. Atma. Atma is totally made of a different principle altogether. Atma is not made of an anatma or these material elements that it can cover. It's a totally different principle. So this different principle will remain untouched. Atma, that is why Ajo Nityam Saswatoyam. This Atma, Aja, unborn, Nitya, eternal, and Saswatoyam, and it is everlasting. The material body or material principle. Bhumirapanalo Direvacha Ahankaramiti Bhinna prakriti, energy, separate. Apareyam itradastu prakritim vidhime tam mahabaho yayedam dharyate. Jagat belong to this potency. Mira, the bhinna prakriti, external or external energy of mind, they belong to another potency of mind. And yayedam dharyate jagat, because of him everything is existing. Because of the conscious principle, if the consciousness were not there, then everything is dull matter, dead. So these two are made of two different principles altogether. It's like this wood. Wood is transformation of earth. In order to, let's say, fix wood, what do you need? Another earthen. Can you fix this with water? If it is broken, fix it. Earthy material, either you use Fevicol, other wood or whatever. It needs another. Now the to go outside. How many days? All raw materials are supplied. Let's say we will take another case. But all the materials are being supplied to you. Allowed to come out of your room. You are restricted like a room, like a prison, because provided food. You think that you want food, you are getting food. If you drink, the drink will also be provided to you. If you smoke, that will also be provided to you. Everything will be provided to you, but not another person. For how? You will say, at least give me a phone so that I can talk to someone. At least you need someone to interact with. No, interact with matter. You can interact with your tables and chairs. You can interact with your other walls of the room. Possible? No. Even though you are kept in a very nice room and all the facilities that you think are required are provided to you, but another living person is not present, you will not find happiness. Why? Because it requires Atma. A man is there. For how long will he give pleasure? When he is dead or when Atma is gone, will he give pleasure to mother and father? No. Why? But you loved his body. Because Atma was present inside that body. Now, after the child is gone, will the parents keep the child's dead body inside the room, inside their house for a long time? They can preserve it. Will they keep it? They won't. Why? Because they have actually not loved the body of the person. They loved the Atma inside, but they don't. They means not only they, we are included. We don't understand that we actually are loving the Atma. The beauty is coming from Atma. The beauty is not coming from the body. The yogis, the pure devotees, they see that beauty. The actual is the self, not his looks, appearances, all these things. But we are accustomed to doing that. So, in a similar way, he is telling that water, air, ether, etc., which are destructible with time, they can never touch the Jivatma, which is indestructible, because they are made of two different elements altogether. যেমন বায়ু দ্বারা প্রেরিত হইয়া মেঘ আদি আকাশে বিচরণ করিলেও আকাশ তাহাকে স্পর্শ করে না সেইরূপ. Just like the clouds are driven away by the wind. The wind is there, but it is not touched by it's not able to touch the sky, or the sky remains untouched by the wind. In a similar way, the Paramatma, the Atma, remains untouched by these material elements. स्वच्छः प्रकृतितः स्निग्धो तीर्थभूनृणां पुनात्यापं मित्रमीक्षोपस्पर्शकीर्तने। हे राजन, मुनि पुरुष जलेर न्याय निर्मल स्वभावतः स्निग्ध मधुर भाषायुक्त एवं मानवगणेर दर्शन ओ भगवत कीर्तन द्वारा मानवगण के विशुद्ध करिबेन। Now about the water. We have heard about earth, heard about wind and the sky, and now he is telling what lessons he has learned from water. From water also he learnt lessons. He learnt lessons. From water, what did he learn? Muni Purush, the devotees or the self-controlled people, they are like water. What are the characteristics of water? Nirmal, very clean, pure. Swabhavatah snigdha, very soft by nature. Water is soft by nature, but it becomes hard when it is kept in the fridge, like ice. But the nature of water is of being soft. Madhubhasha yukta, and the sounds of the water in the silent place, very pleasant, isn't it? Many persons go to the sides, sounds of the water, tap water sound.
If you put the conch, and you also listen to this ocean sound.
Ocean sound, yes.
It's amazing how it keeps
Yes. The sound of the water is very pleasant. So many musics based on the sound of the water. Early morning water sound, after sound, evening water sound, because the sound is of the water is very, very pleasant. So the pure devotees, they are like that. They are very soft, they are very pure, and their speech is also very sweet. Like river speech is its sound. So the pure devotees' speech is also very, very sweet. By this, पुण्यजनक मानवगणेर पुण्यजनक होइया दर्शन स्पर्शन और भगवत कीर्तन द्वारा मानवगण के विशुद्ध करबेन. So just like the water purifies dirty, one he becomes very pure. Mind and heart. Very, very, irritated. You feel very, very fresh. So in a similar way, sight, like water, soft, by their sight, pure, by their sound of the water, means by their beautiful speech, or by their singing of the kirtans of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, they purify everyone. Okay, just like water purifies by the sight, by the beauty of it, by the purity of it, by the touch of it, of it. In a similar way, sadhus also by the sight, the touch, and sound. By all these three ways, they purify everyone. The lesson that he has learned from Shri Vishnu Chakra Thakur writes in the commentary, Jal haite shikhar kotha bolite chen, Jal swachha nirmal swabhavata snigdha. Water is pure and clear and by nature soft. Prati snehashil jal madhur. And water is very net, is equal to everyone. Like whoever, he is water, she is, purifying everyone. Sadhu Seirup Madhur Alapi Bhakti Upadesh Dwara Ei Lok ke Pavitra Koren. So in a similar way, even a pure devotee, by his soft speech or pure speech, nice speech, he purifies everyone. Shakaler Mitru Hoiben, and therefore he becomes friend of everyone, just like water is friend of softness, her sweet water way. Sadhu also everyone. আগ হইতে এইরূপ পাঠ ধরিলে মিত্র শব্দের অর্থ সখা পবিত্র করে, অর্থাৎ স্বচ্ছত্ব জলের ন্যায় করেন. So the just like the water has the purity of the property of being pure and purifies anyone who comes in contact with her, in a similar way the sadhus also has the character. Prabhupada's purport is a little longer, so I will not read today. I will read this tomorrow because it will take time, maybe 15-20 minutes, so we don't have the time. This is 44. We started with 42, no? So this is verse 44, and the purport by Srila Prabhupada remains to be read. We will read the